Once upon a time, in a small village nestled in the rolling hills of the countryside, there lived a young girl named Akua. She grew up in a poor family and had to drop out of school to help her mother with the household chores. Despite the hardships, Akua was determined to make a better life for herself. One day, she decided to leave the village and head to the city to search for a job. With a small bag and a big dream, she set off on her journey. Upon arrival, she was overwhelmed by the hustle and bustle of city life. Luckily, she had a friend, Amma, who had left the village a few years prior and had promised to help her settle in. Amma took Akua under her wing and showed her the ropes of city life. She seemed to be living a comfortable life, and Akua was impressed. Amma promised to get Akua a job, saying she would take her to meet her boss. Akua was thrilled, thinking she had finally found a way out of her struggles. However, things took a dark turn when Amma took Akua to meet her boss. The boss, a charismatic figure named Marcus, revealed that his business was not what Akua had expected. He was the master of a cult that groomed young, beautiful girls become prostitutes, using their charm and beauty to attract wealthy men. But there was a twist. Marcus had the power to give these girls mermaid powers, allowing them to hypnotize and entice men with ease. Akua was horrified, but Marcus gave her a night to think about it, tempting her with promises of wealth and a better life. Akua was torn. On one hand, she was desperate to escape her poverty-stricken past. On the other hand, she knew that joining the cult would mean sacrificing her values and autonomy. As she lay in bed that night, she thought about her struggles and the hardships she had faced. She convinced herself that this was the only way to survive. The next day, Akua agreed to join the cult, and Marcus initiated her into the group. She was given a new name and began her training, learning how to harness her mermaid powers. Akua's life in the cult seemed perfect. She was living a luxurious life, and her mother was well taken care of. She had built a beautiful house for her in the city, and her mother was proud of the businesswoman Akua had become. As Akua continued to use her mermaid powers to entice wealthy men. One day, she met a handsome married man named Kwame. He was charming, successful, and had a way with words. Akua didn't mind that he was married. She was only supposed to sleep with him, not fall in love. But as they spent more time together, Akua found herself drawn to Kwame's kind heart and gentle nature. She began to use her powers less and less, wanting to connect with him on a deeper level. Kwame, too, seemed to be falling for Akua, and they started a secret affair. Their cult leader, Marcus, warned her about the dangers of falling in love. "You are mermaids," he said. "Your purpose is to lure men in, not to fall prey to their emotions." But Akua couldn't help herself. She had never felt this way before, and she couldn't resist Kwame's charms. As their relationship deepened, Akua started to question her life in the cult. She realized that she was trapped in a world of manipulation and exploitation. She wanted out, but she knew it wouldn't be easy. Marcus had a hold on her, and she feared what would happen if she tried to leave. Kwame, too, was torn. He loved his wife, but he couldn't deny his feelings for Akua. He wanted to be with her, but he knew it would mean losing everything he had worked for. Akua and Kwame's love became stronger, but it also became more dangerous. They were trapped in a world of secrets and lies, and they didn't know who to trust. One night, as they sat together in Akua's luxurious bedroom, they made a decision. They would risk everything to be together, but as they held hands, they knew it wouldn't be easy. Kwame's wife, Na, had been suspicious of her husband's late nights and frequent business trips. She hired a private investigator who led her to Akua's luxurious apartment. Na's heart raced as she stood outside the door, her mind filled with anger and betrayal. When Akua opened the door, Na's eyes narrowed. "You're the one," she spat. "You're the one who's been sleeping with my husband." Akua stood tall, unapologetic. "I am," she said, "and I'm not going to stop. I love him, and I'm willing to risk everything for him." Na's eyes flashed with anger. "You don't know what you're getting yourself into," she warned. "Kwame is mine, and I won't let you take him from me." But Akua just smiled. "I'm not afraid of you," she said. "I'm willing to risk it all for Kwame." Na's expression changed, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. "You don't know who I am, do you?" she said. "I'm a retired cultist, Akua. I know all about Marcus and his mermaids, and I know how to deal with them." Akua's confidence faltered, but she refused to back down. I don't care who you are, she said. I'm not going to let you intimidate me. Na chuckled. We'll see about that, she said. You have no idea what you're up against. Marcus will stop at nothing to keep you in his grasp, and I'll stop at nothing to keep my husband. With that, Na turned and left, leaving Akua feeling uneasy and unsure of what was to come. She didn't know that Na was a retired cultist, and she didn't know the danger that was lurking in the shadows. But she was determined to fight for Kwame, no matter the cost. Na went home, her mind racing with thoughts of revenge and protection. She knew she had to act fast to keep Kwame from leaving her for Akua. She decided to consult her mermaid spirit, a powerful entity she had connected with during her time in the cult. In her secret shrine, Na lit candles and incense, calling upon the mermaid spirit to guide her. She asked for the spirit's help in keeping Kwame faithful and punishing anyone who tried to take him from her. The mermaid spirit whispered a dark and sinister spell in Na's ear. Na's eyes gleamed with determination as she repeated the words, feeling the power of the spell coursing through her veins. With the spell cast, Na felt a sense of satisfaction. From now on, if Kwame slept with any woman who was not her, that woman's vagina would start leaking a smelly liquid, humiliating her and driving Kwame away. Na smiled to herself, knowing that Akua would be the first to suffer the consequences of the spell. She was confident that Kwame would soon realize his mistake and return to her, begging for forgiveness. Meanwhile, Akua was unaware of the danger that lurked ahead. She continued to see Kwame in secret, their passion growing stronger with each passing day. But little did she know, their next encounter would be the trigger that set off Na's sinister spell. Akua met with Kwame, and days later, she began noticing a slimy liquid on her private parts. She visited a doctor, but he found nothing wrong with her. Confused, Akua wondered why the doctor couldn't detect anything. As the days passed, the smell became unbearable, and others started to notice it too. Embarrassed and desperate, Akua called Kwame, asking him to come over. When he arrived, his face contorted in disgust. What's that smell? He asked, frowning. Akua was mortified. I don't know what's happening to me. I have this very smelly discharge. Kwame's expression remained unfazed. Go to the hospital, he retorted. Don't call me until then. With that, Kwame left, leaving Akua in tears, feeling humiliated and alone. Akua was devastated. She had never felt so humiliated and alone. She didn't understand what was happening to her body, and Kwame's reaction made her feel like she was disgusting. She spent the rest of the day in tears, feeling like her world was crumbling around her. She couldn't shake off the feeling that Na was behind this, but she had no proof. As the days went by, the smell only got worse. Akua tried everything to get rid of it, douches, scented soaps, perfumes, but nothing worked. She became a recluse, afraid to leave her house or see anyone. Kwame didn't call or visit her again, and Akua was left to suffer alone. She felt like she was losing her mind, and the smell was a constant reminder of her shame. One day, as she was sitting in her dark apartment, feeling hopeless, there was a knock at the door. It was Na. I see the spell is working, Na said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. You should have stayed away from my husband. Akua looked up at her, tears streaming down her face. Please, Na, make it stop. I'll do anything. Na smiled. You should have thought of that before you slept with Kwame. Now, you'll have to live with the consequences. And with that, Na turned and left, leaving Akua to her misery. Akua, desperate for a solution, decided to visit the cult, hoping they could help her lift the spell. She went to the secret location, her heart heavy with shame and her body emitting the foul odor. Marcus, the cult leader, greeted her with a stern expression. Akua, you have breached the rules of the mermaids. You fell in love with a man, and you have to face the consequences. Akua begged for mercy, explaining that she was already suffering from Na's spell. But Marcus was unforgiving. You should have thought of that before you disobeyed us, he said. We are yet to punish you for your disobedience. The smell is none of our business. Akua was horrified. Please, Marcus, have mercy. I'll do anything. Marcus smiled, his eyes glinting with cruelty. You will undergo a ritual to cleanse you of your emotions. You will lose your ability to love again. Akua was appalled. No, please. I'd rather die than lose my feelings. Marcus shrugged. Then you will suffer the consequences. The smell will only get worse, and soon you will be shunned by society. You will be alone, Akua, forever." And with that, Akua was thrown out of the cult, left to face her fate alone. She realized that she had made a terrible mistake by joining the cult and that now she was paying the price. Akua's mother, Mrs. Mensa, arrived at her daughter's apartment, concerned about the rumors she had heard. "Akua, my dear, what's going on? People are saying you have a smell." Akua was mortified. She couldn't tell her mother the truth about the cult, the spell, and the punishment. She had sworn an oath of secrecy. "Mother, it's just a medical condition," Akua stammered. "I'm seeing a doctor." Mrs. Mensa looked skeptical. "A medical condition? But what about the smell? It's unbearable." Akua felt a lump in her throat. She wanted to confide in her mother, but she was trapped by the cult's secrets. "I'll get through this, Mother," Akua said, trying to reassure her. "Please, just pray for me." Mrs. Mensa looked worried but nodded. "I'll pray, Akua, but please, my dear, take care of yourself. I hope you didn't let the city swallow you." As her mother left, Akua felt a pang of guilt. She was hiding the truth from the one person who loved her unconditionally. But she knew she had no choice. The cult would stop at nothing to keep its secrets buried. Akua was trapped in a living nightmare with no escape in sight. The smell was getting worse, and she was running out of hope. Would she ever find a way to break free from the cult's grasp and regain her life? Meanwhile, Na sat in her dimly lit house, her mind consumed by thoughts of Akua. She couldn't shake off the feeling that she had gone too far. The slimy discharge, the unbearable smell, and Kwame's rejection had taken a toll on Akua. Na's conscience began to gnaw at her, and she wondered if she had made a mistake. As she pondered, Na realized that her initial intention was to teach Akua a lesson, not to destroy her. She hoped that Akua had learned from her mistakes and would change her ways. With a newfound sense of compassion, Na decided to lift the curse before it was too late.
She couldn't bear the thought of Akua succumbing to the curse. Na rose from her seat, her movements resolute. She would lift the curse and give Akua a second chance. But as she turned to leave, a whisper echoed in her mind. Will Akua appreciate this mercy, or will she revert to her old ways? Only time would tell. She stood in front of her shrine, her eyes closed as she focused on her mermaid spirit. "Mother, I need your help," she whispered. The mermaid spirit appeared before her, its voice like a gentle breeze. "What is it, Na? Why have you summoned me?" Na opened her eyes, her gaze intense. "I want to lift the spell on Akua. I want her to be free." The mermaid spirit raised an eyebrow. "Why would you want to do that, Na? You cast the spell to punish her." Na's expression softened. "I know, Mother, but I think she has suffered enough and learned her lesson. It's time for my husband to learn his error." The mermaid spirit nodded. "Very well, Na. I will help you lift the spell and shift it to your husband. But bear in mind that once the spell is removed, it can never be cast." Na nodded, determination in her eyes. "I understand, Mother. Let us do it now." The mermaid spirit began to chant, its voice rising and falling in a hypnotic rhythm. Na joined in, her voice blending with the mermaid's as they wove a spell of release. As they finished, a warm light filled the room, and Na knew that the spell was lifted. Akua was free, and her husband was yet to learn his lesson. Akua rushed to Na's place, her heart filled with gratitude and remorse. She had never felt so relieved and humbled in her life. The curse had been lifted, and the slimy discharge and unbearable smell were gone. As she entered Na's house, Akua fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Na, I'm so sorry for my past mistakes. I was wrong to hurt you, and I don't deserve your forgiveness." Na's expression softened as she looked at Akua. She could see the genuine remorse in her eyes. "Akua, I forgave you because my mind, heart, and soul deserve peace. Holding on to anger and resentment would only consume me." Akua looked up, her eyes pleading. "Thank you, Na. I promise to make amends and start anew. Your forgiveness means everything to me." Na nodded, her voice gentle. "Remember, forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it frees us from its burdens. Learn from your mistakes and grow, Akua. That's the only way to true peace." Akua left Na's place thinking of starting over her life in a more righteous way. Meanwhile, Kwame didn't know of the spell casted on him, that any lady he sleeps with will be stuck on together till death. Days moved, and Akua's life seemed to be stuck on one place. Nothing was working for her, and it was weighing her down. She had forgotten about the cult, but the cult was not done with her. The cult members gathered in their secret location, their faces lit only by candles. Marcus, the leader, stood at the center, his eyes scanning the room. Akua has become a liability, he declared. Her disobedience and love for Kwame have put us all at risk. She must be eliminated. The members nodded in agreement, their faces expressionless. We can't let her continue to threaten our existence, one of them said. She's a loose screw, and if we don't tighten it, she'll unravel everything we've built. Marcus nodded. I agree. We'll make it look like an accident. No one will suspect a thing. The members began to discuss the details of Akua's demise, their voices hushed and calculating. Meanwhile, Akua was alone in her apartment, unaware of the danger that was coming for her. She was still trying to find a way to get her life together, but time was running out. The cult was closing in on her, and she was running out of options. As she lay in bed, she heard a faint noise outside her window. She got up to investigate, but as she approached the window, she was met with a chilling sight. Marcus was standing outside, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly intensity. Akua, your time is up, Marcus hissed, his voice carried away by the wind. And with that, everything went black. Akua was found lying dead in her house by her mother, who had come to check on her. The news of her death quickly spread, and people thought she died of depression from the smell. Little did they know, it was the work of the devil she was doing that had turned back and bit her.